You're in the place to be with the CBDC Asset Group. Thank you for being a part of the group. All right, we got ESWAR PRASAD from Cornell University. Says Bitcoin has not worked very well. It could be an entertainment speculation. Nick Day talking about Biden and his potential nomination for the O.C. SAULE OMAROVA, Cornell University professor. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell. If you're ever having a bad day, just remember, it could be worse. You could work for this guy.
I support them and give them food and clothes and cars and houses.
Why is China so threatened by trading in cryptocurrencies?
I think what China really wants to do, like many other governments, is to maintain control of the digital payments within the country, but more importantly, also to make sure that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are not used as conduits to take money in and out of the country through unofficial channels. Now, China has already been trying to cut down its tech giants, including Ant Financial, to size. Alipay and WeChat Pay dominate the digital payment space in China, and China wants to make sure that its fiat currency, the yuan, issued by the central bank still has a role to play, which is why they're thinking of issuing a digital yuan. But I think cryptocurrencies are, of course, much harder to regulate. So China had already banned initial coin offerings, which is sort of like the IPOs of the cryptocurrency world. It had banned its financial institutions from undertaking any sort of trading in cryptocurrencies, but now it's directly prohibiting its citizens, which is certainly going to have a dampening effect on their ability to use cryptocurrencies for any sort of transactions.
So, Professor, I understand that governments like to regulate things, particularly if they're powerful, such as currencies. That makes sense. But we also have some skepticism, not just from China, but we have Madame Lagarde, president of the ECB. We have Jay Powell, chair of the Fed, expressing real doubts about what these things are. I mean, I guess they were created as a means of exchange, according to you in your book, and then they became methods of restoring value. But in fact, do they do either of those things?
So as a medium of exchange, Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies of its kind have certainly not worked very well. They have very unstable value. They are not easy to use. They take time for transactions to be processed. They cannot handle large volumes of transactions, but they seem to have become speculative asset undergirded by just one principle, which is that of scarcity, and of course the technological razzle-dazzle underlying them. Bitcoin, for instance, has a hard cap on its algorithm. There are only 21 million Bitcoins can ever be minted. About 18.5 million have been minted so far. It's hard to imagine that scarcity by itself, David, can be a durable source of value. So a new breed of cryptocurrencies, stable coins, now tries to deal with that problem by essentially creating a backing through fiat currencies. Facebook plans to issue its own cryptocurrency called Diem, which would be backed up by reserves of dollars and dollar-related securities. But that creates another set of risks. Now, who knows what sort of people are going to be transacting using Facebook's currency? Who will be using that currency to trade across borders? And the other problem is we don't really know what Facebook will ultimately end up holding as reserves. So you could end up just like we did with the global financial crisis, where money market mutual funds, which were seen as very safe investments, turned out not to be that safe. So there are financial risks as well as risks about what sort of illicit activities and other types of unregulated activities could go through the payment system if it is decentralized in this form.
Well, and Chair Gensler, as I understand, is addressing in part that very issue about stablecoins. You can say that they're backed up by reserves, but how do you know that they really are? There have been some instances where it appears it wasn't really cash on hand. It's backed up by. But as you describe this, if it's not an effective medium of exchange, I guess in part because it varies so much, it fluctuates so much, how can you set a price in it? If it more is a matter of speculation, what's its function? How does it make the world a better place? Or is it mainly for almost entertainment and speculation, the way if we go to Atlantic City, we can gamble?
So if you think about Bitcoin and then some of the newer meme coins that have emerged, which don't even pretend to have any underlying functions, it's clear that people seem to be relying on the greater fool theory that if you buy this asset, you just need to find somebody who's willing to take it on at a somewhat higher price. But David, the underlying technology of Bitcoin, I think, is what is really going to be transformative. And I think it's that technology that people are to some extent betting on. Because, there are many frictions in international finance and domestic finance. Many people don't have easy access to digital payments. In the US, you need a debit or credit card or a bank account to have access to digital payments. International payments are still beset by lots of impediments. They're expensive. They are very time consuming. It's very difficult to track payments. So there is a real need for better digital payments that people have access to without necessarily being well off. You need better international payments. So I think this technology is what might lead us to a world where, in fact, you can have payments being much easier, much more efficient, where everybody has access to them. And in addition, you might have better financial products and services, which really lead to the democratization of finance. But that is a promise for the future. It's not quite there yet. Right now, we have a lot more of the speculative risks rather than the benefits being apparent.
Now to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of the State of Crypto newsletter. Hey there, Nick. So we have some new OCC nomination rumors. Tell us a bit about that.
Hey, good morning. Yes, last night it was reported that U.S. President Joe Biden intends to nominate Cornell University Professor SAULE OMAROVA to be the next controller of the currency, succeeding Michael Hsu, who has been in the role in an acting capacity ever since former acting controller Brian Brooks stepped down. There's not a lot I can say right now. We're still trying to confirm, indeed, whether or not this nomination will happen soon. But it seems that the professor is, she's familiar with crypto, but she's not a huge fan of it. She wrote a paper in 2019, kind of casting doubt, a lot of skepticism around some of the claims the crypto industry has presented over the years, including, concerns around whether or not it's actually revolutionizing financial services or issues like that. How that translates into action remains to be seen, but the OCC has been very active in 2020, allowing the crypto industry closer access to banking services and granting banks with more permission to interact with crypto. So there is a fair amount at stake here.
So Nick, are we seeing a stance by the Biden administration, not Joe Biden himself, because it doesn't? I'm still not convinced he's even heard of Bitcoin. But are we seeing perhaps Yellen getting involved in this, somebody involved with selecting people who are clearly anti-crypto? Are we seeing sort of a Biden administration stance overall arching throughout the administration as to being negative against cryptocurrency in general, and specifically given we see Gensler, et cetera, coming out strongly?
Well, it seems to me that while, there is some concern amongst, a lot of these regulators around what's going on with the crypto industry right now, it feels a lot more likely that, Biden administration is looking for financial product experts who happen to know a lot about crypto. This was actually a topic of a newsletter from Tuesday, but a lot of the folks that he's nominating are primarily known for their work in other areas, but they, whether they've taught courses on crypto or have written papers about crypto, they're just people who know about this industry. And I think that's probably just kind of a trend, right? As crypto becomes more and more mainstream, you're going to have a greater chance of finding regulators who, or finding people who can become regulators who have this prior knowledge. And how exactly that prior knowledge translates into their policy positions is really going to depend on, what kind of regulators you're looking for. Gary Gensler, when he was at the CFTC, was known for, creating and implementing some pretty strong regulations around derivatives products. And so, I feel like him coming into the SEC and trying to regulate crypto and the way he's been doing shouldn't be a huge surprise. And likewise, if you're looking for regulators who can rein in, what you see as a, pretty crazy financial sector, or a specific segment of the sector, or someone who can understand different parts of it, then chances are, if they know about crypto, then they're going to want to prioritize issues like in the Professor Omarova's case, making sure the general consumer has access to banking services that are not just subject to a very restrictive system.